Good evening. Today is Monday, January 29th, 2024, and the time now is 6 p.m. And I will call the regular meeting of Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website and designated posting place 24 hours prior to this meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. Copies of the guidelines are available online and at the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for you to address the board on any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead.
Here.
Trustee Harris.
Here.
Trustee Parr.
Here.
Trustee Schrantz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, January 29th, 2024, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence for the 3 United States soldiers killed in a drone attack near Syria-Jordan border today. And the 2 Navy SEALs who were lost at the sea during this mission last week. Thank you for your time, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next is review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as is.
Second?
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Schrantz.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. We have an agenda for this evening, and next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I would like to highlight a couple things. First of all, all that construction around 3rd and Welker is done for the time being. They're going to come back, I think, on the 19th of February to do some patching, but it's no longer under siege. So that's good because it's a precursor to what we're going to see next year, but it has nothing to do with what we're going to see next year. So it was an oil and gas company working on some lines, but they're gone. In your packet, you'll see our community report that's being printed this week, will be mailed out to all the citizens. Lorelei will talk about it. She's going to do an update on just generally what's going on in her department today. But I do want to point out the police survey is live. You can follow this link in the report. You can follow it. It'll be in the Mead Messenger. It will be out on social media. So please take the survey. Encourage your friends to take the survey. We're looking for as many people as we can to weigh in. It's quick. It's only 5 or 6 questions. So please do that. And other than that, I know some of you went to the Quick Trip opening and some of our guests go there quite regularly. I've been there every day since it opened. Fantastic. It's so nice to be able to just go over there. We're anxiously awaiting for the car wash to open, which may be as soon as June. So that's really exciting. And that's all I have.
All right, questions or concerns or comments for Helen? Trustee Adams, do you have any questions or concerns or comments?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. Next is our informational. Thank you, Helen, for your report. Next is our informational items. And first up is our CDOT update. And I will turn it again over to the town manager to introduce our guest from CDOT.
Abra is we meet with her on the I-25 corridor coalition. She is our project manager for our segment, but she's also everything to all of us. She's always there to take our call, and she agreed to come talk to you tonight and give a real expansive talk about what's going on, what's gone on, and also touch briefly on the 1601 process and High Plains Boulevard. So thanks for coming.
All right. Thanks, Helen. Hopefully I can live up to that. She's everything to everyone. So I'm Amber Geisler. Like Helen was saying, I'm the project director of segments 5 and 6, which run from Mead up to Johnstown. And I'm also responsible for the North I-25 corridor. So just to help orient you a little bit to what we're doing, as you probably know and are very thankful for, our project from the Berthoud area up to Fort Collins is about 97% complete now. It's about $900 million that we've invested in that corridor over 20 miles. You know, people always get a little sticker shock from that, but I say, you know, if you were to redo your bathroom or your kitchen, you get the sticker shock from that too. And ours is very expansive. So we actually cut that up into 2 separate contracts. So it was 2 projects that we delivered it. One was a design build. That was a $600 million project from Johnstown to Fort Collins. And then the segment 6 project is, like I said, Berthoud to Johnstown. That's under the CMGC delivery method. And what that means is basically the contractor is with us through the duration of the design. So we're able to pick their brains on means and methods of construction, what the material availability, what the pricing world is like, which was crazy through COVID, something like haven't seen before. And so they're basically along the entire design ride with us. And then they get the first opportunity to bid on the project. If we are within a certain delta of pricing, then we award it to them. If we don't arrive through negotiations through that specified delta, then we have to go bid it out. So a pretty progressive alternative design delivery, but I highly recommend it on these big projects. We're also able to cut up the projects in what we call construction packages. So we can design a certain portion, put it out to bid. Time is money, so we're able to spend a lot of money that way. So coming up with segment 5, that's what you all probably care about the most. You're going to be highly impacted for the duration of construction, but also reap the rewards when it's done. So we're doing it through that same CMGC delivery method. It stands for Construction Management General Contractor Delivery Method. It's about 6 miles, and we're estimating the cost to be around $425 to $450 million. And we'll be doing the same exact thing as what we did in segment 6, 7, and 8, same type of application of improvements. So what we did 6, 7, and 8, just to give you some bearings of everything that you've experienced over the last 5 or 6 years, 20 miles of roadway we improved. A lot of people undersell the project and call it a toll lane or a toll express project, but really the amount of operational and safety improvements we've done on the project speaks volumes. People are actually going too fast now, I would say. When they crash on the guardrail, they really take out a long length of guardrail. So that's our next challenge, is to get people to not think they're in Germany. So we improved both the horizontal and vertical curves of the interstate. We improved the interchanges. We reconstructed 35 bridges. Just let that soak in. One bridge project is a lot. 35 bridges along I-25. You go over bridges and you don't even notice it along the corridor. We've added 2 new mobility hubs, one at Berthoud at 56 and then one at Centera. So we're trying to implement these mobility hubs every 7 to 10 miles to really connect the I-25 corridor with the east-west communities as well, to get people up to Fort Collins and down to Denver and everywhere in between. So quite a bit of work we've done. Here are some graphics that show, words speak much louder than pictures. So here's what we've done at 56. Flipped the interchange, added in the mobility hub. We shut that interchange for 114 days, just to give you an idea. We We tried to front load as much work as you can see through the pictures. We did a lot of work before we shut it down. So that top middle picture to the top right picture is what we were able to accomplish in 114 days. I often use that with the contract people that say it's going to take 2 or 3 months to execute our contract. I throw these pictures up here to show them what we can do. So huge kudos to the team. Our contracting team was awesome through this. Moving along to the north, this is Colorado 60. This is the Johnstown interchange. This is our first diverging diamond interchange in northern Colorado. If y'all have any questions about DDIs, please feel free to ask. I don't know how nerdy you all get on interchanges, so I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining them. But again, we were able to construct it. We basically nested each bridge in the middle of the old bridge. So we were able to build one bridge, keep the old bridge there, and then we shifted traffic to that north bridge you see in that middle upper picture. And then we were able to build the other bridge on the south side. So please know that phasing and constructing things while not interfering with the public's daily routine is very, very important to us. And we try as much as we can to be as minimal as possible. And just highlight the improvements that you see at this DDI. Johnstown gave some pretty big money to add some aesthetic features and landscaping to this. So just wanted to highlight what they've done here too. Moving more north, this is Kector. Mobility and multimodal mobility is also important to us as we're working on this corridor. Before, very tiny skinny lanes, the guardrail would make anybody freak out when they're biking along there. It was so low. And no fall zone if you're used to skiing terms. So we really wanted to make people feel better about using this bridge, especially on their bike. So added sidewalks and bike lanes and made the overall functionality and safety of this much better. And here's Prospect Road and 402, again, really wanting to enforce multimodal as we're building these interchanges. And I don't want to bore you too much with by the numbers, but people are also busy leading their lives with 61 babies. That was mostly the design team while working through COVID. 48 weddings and a lot of life happening in the background for our people as well. And so just to highlight some of these mobility hubs, these are the first of its kind where they're median loaded and hopefully to help you use them as well. We nested the parking lot in between what we call the infield of the on-ramp and mainline I-25 to help people really compress their walk. We didn't want people to have a long walk ahead of them. So a pretty easy, I call it a boutique mobility hub at Berthoud because it's really easy to use. And the primary safety and operational advantage of a median loaded mobility hub is buses that are traveling in the inside express lane. They're able to exit into that median loaded mobility hub and pop right back in onto the express lane. So most bus pickups are on the ramps. So people driving in the express lane will have to navigate 2 lanes over across the general purpose lanes, get into the off ramp, wait probably a traffic signal cycle or roundabout, and then get back on, navigate 2 lanes over and back into that express lane. So much safer and much better operation for I-25 mainline as well. And then another thing that we're going to be looking for, especially in segment 5, is just any room for innovation and to save money. In this case, we applied innovation to the Great Western Railroad bridges. The PUC, the Public Utility Commission, requires that railroad bridges be 23.5 foot high. This particular bridge was about 17 foot high, but it only serviced a spur about a mile to the west. So very low use railroad corridor. And so what we were able to do was instead say, well, we're not building a new bridge because we're going to reuse the deck of the bridge. So we actually reused the deck, jacked it up a little bit to keep that 17 foot clearance when we widened the bridge. And by saying that we're reusing the deck. It's not a new bridge. So we don't have to raise all of I-25 up. And we saved about $10 million with that innovative idea, which allowed us to build the roundabout and the new on-ramp going in the southbound direction at 16. So just know we're looking for those types of innovations as we work through segment 5. And a lot of you were at the ribbon cutting ceremony. I unfortunately had COVID during that time, so I had to miss it and also miss my presentation I was supposed to give here. But we will have another ribbon cutting ceremony for, not me, but the mobility hubs that we're opening at Centera and Berthoud. So those are coming up in the springtime. I just wanted to alert you all to that. And then a segment 5 groundbreaking as well. So on to segment 5. I guess any questions before I get into segment 5?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
I'm super excited because Helen and I have talked about EV charging stations at the mobility hubs.
Yes.
So I'm super happy that
Yes.
there's going to be, I don't own one, but I'm super happy.
Yes.
So I just want to make that comment.
And we are working on that. So there is a state declaration that every parking lot that the state builds has to have EV stations built into them. Although there's also another state guidance that says the state can't collect revenue within state right away. So they're conflicting right now. We're figuring that out. But we built the mobility hub parking lots to easily be able to pop in an EV station. They're all pre-wired with conduit and everything else where we can just pop in that EV station when the new guidance is clear. Yes, so it's coming. So segment 5, base scope, we have 6 miles of improved safety and operations, just like you've seen in segment 6, 7, and 8. Toll lanes will be added. We'll have 1 new toll lane entrance to get into that toll lane. We're going to reconstruct the 34 interchange, Will County Road 34, and then rebuild 8 roads with that. You can see on the left a heat map of where the accidents are along the I-25 corridor. It's kind of an interesting thing to see. What you may notice is a lot of the weaving and on and off ramps where you're introducing new traffic and you're introducing weaving motions. That's where most of the accidents exist. So we'll be addressing those type of interactions. And then unfortunately, we found out last week we did go after $100 million federal grant. We weren't successful with that grant. So we're really going to have to comb through the scope and what we can afford. The base scope you see up top there, the priority scope will be a southbound climbing lane, that one that exists today for about 2.5 miles, and that where the grade is pretty steep there. We added a climbing lane, I think in 2017, 2018 time period to help with the operations of trucks going up there. That's going to be our first thing that we want to keep in there, but we may have to cut depending on funding. And then the other thing that we want to add is extend the toll lane south of Colorado 66 in the northbound direction. So where it goes from a 3-lane to a 2-lane drop, we want to add that toll lane before we drop the 3rd general purpose lane.
If you don't mind my asking, so where the climbing lane is, then there would be yet an additional, so you'd have 4 lanes there?
So we would have, correct. So right now it would, in the current design, we're keeping that lane. Just like when you're remodeling a house, you want to keep as much scope as you can and then have your general contractor say, no, you can't afford that. And then you start cutting.
Right.
So our design includes 1 express lane and then 3 general purpose lanes.
But we know that it's in our hip pocket. If we run out of money, that's the first thing to go. Yeah.
That'll be the second thing to go. The first thing will be the tolled express lane south of 66. So funding wise, we have $100 million in the bank to get us up off the ground. We also secured what we call a TIFIA loan. So we're financing the rest. We're paying through that for that TIFIA loan through reinvested toll revenue along the I-25 corridor. Which is nice that money is coming back to us. And then we're going to keep on going for grants as much as we can. We're not stopping yet. So what that schedule looks like for segment 5, we're 90% complete with that construction package 1, which is the northbound inside shoulder that will allow us to shift the southbound traffic to the northbound barrel. And then that will allow us to build the north or the southbound barrel without traffic. When we're done with that, we switch the traffic over to the southbound barrel, and then we'll build the northbound barrel without traffic. So pretty easy phasing, I would say, but there's going to be a lot of barrier along I-25. We did reach out to emergency services, and we've been coordinating with them. We asked, would you prefer us have a barrier condition for a shorter amount of time or leave it more open for a longer amount of time? The results were resounding. We want barrier for a short amount of time, so we phased it that way. So construction will start this spring, and it will go until spring of 2028. So we want to give people a little bit of a break from the concrete temporary barrier. Enjoy your time. But come May this year, you'll probably see it going again. And not to get too engineering, but these are the cross sections at both the 34 and the 38 bridge. So at 34, we're adding 8-foot sidewalks and a 5-foot bike lane. It'll be a two-lane bridge. And then at 38, again, it'll be a 2-lane bridge with 8-foot sidewalks. So we're really wanting to get those east-west mobility connections, set the path for that to happen. And then moving on to High Plains Boulevard, I'm not sure how familiar you all are, but this is I-25 parallel arterial route that we've been coordinating with the locals probably since 2019, I would say. So all the local municipalities between Mead up to Fort Collins know about this, and we have an intergovernmental agreement that lays out the context and the general alignment of the road. And so with the segment 6, 7, and 8 projects, we actually didn't devolve, but we translated the use of the road to where it was a frontage road. We started seeing a lot of applications from developers of wanting to build on that road. And that's just not what the frontage road is for. It's supposed to be access to the private properties. So we worked with the locals to transition that road about a half mile to the east and make it an arterial parallel road to the frontage road, where locals can then manage how that growth takes place in their community. There were a plethora of reasons of why we did that, mainly safety. A lot of people were diving off of mainline I-25 during a stop condition on mainline and creating a lot of conflict points. At the 119 interchange especially, it's hard to tell when you're pulling out, making a left onto the frontage road, whether that headlight is coming at you at 80 miles per hour or 45 miles per hour on mainline or the frontage road. So there were a lot of safety reasons. There were also some pretty big right-of-way savings that we didn't have to acquire about 143 football fields just in segment 6 alone. 143 acres. So that's about 143 football fields without the end zones. So we were able to save a lot of taxpayer money by doing this as well. So that's what's happening in segment 5 as well. We're transitioning the use of the frontage road. Basically at 66, that road exists now. We're going to keep on marching that road north. And the exciting news is Weld County is going to build it from 32 to 34. And then we're working with developers Bro and Valter from 34 to 36. And then Turion's going to build it from 38 to 44. So a huge chunk of High Plains Boulevard within Mead will get built within the next 5 years, I would say. Very, very exciting. So what that means for I-25 is while we're phasing our 34 interchange, we're having to look at what temporary infrastructure we would put in if High Plains wasn't involved. And we're seeing that, it could sum up to a good amount of money. So we're wanting to get involved in the High Plains discussion because we could put some of that money that we would have to spend otherwise into a better use, which would be High Plains Boulevard. So we're meeting quite regularly with the developers, Mead and Weld County, to figure out how we're going to get that done. And then the last slide here is the 1601 process for Weld County Road 38. The 1601 process is anytime we introduce a new interchange to the interstate system, we have to go through this process. It's pretty complex and lengthy, but you know, it's for good reason. It's preserving the I-25 and interstate corridors. So the scope, the picture on the left is what the scope is of our project, which includes a new bridge. But that's about it. So Mead and the Turion developers have shown interest in adding an interchange here, which makes a lot of sense, especially given, you know, when the 34 bridge got hit, you guys were kind of in an island, had huge detours. So just the 5 mile gap in between interstates would be one really good reason for safety purposes alone to add this interchange. So we're working, Mead is leading that effort. CDOT is supporting the process with Mead. You can see the graphic on the right. It's quite lengthy. We've already had our pre-application meeting in December, and there's a lot of documents that come with the 1601 process that Mead with their consultant Wilson and Company are putting together now. And that's all I had for you all tonight. Happy to answer any questions.
I was just going to make a comment and then we'll go for questions. It seems like, how many slides did you put together? 12. Let's just say 10, 12.
Okay.
It underestimates the time and the effort that CDOT and the towns and the counties and the state have gone through. And we've been with you through the whole step. So I just want to say thank you. So the slides show an amazing amount of work in such a short period of time. So I just want to say thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm glad you're not COVID anymore and you're better. And I will ask for questions or comments. Herman?
Very nice job. Thank you. I'm an old guy and I've been around a long time. About 10 years ago, when I was on the board, I got an opportunity to attend some of the first meeting about this up in Greeley. At that time, it was a wish list kind of meeting, right? Throw what you want out there. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, but
Yep.
you know, what the heck. The one thing that Mead brought up at that time for that corridor, for about 1 mile of it, was sound walls, because we have communities that back right up to the freeway. So there's a significant amount of road noise that comes off of those and into those communities. So I hear a lot about that,
Yes.
especially now that all this is going on.
Yes.
But my answer to them is, I have no idea what the plan is, what the design is, if that's even a consideration to throw up some sound walls just to break that noise level.
Great question. And you're not alone. This is probably the #1 hot topic of
That's me.
of any project really. Whenever CDOT adds capacity, we do have to do an environmental analysis that looks at how is this increasing sound to what we call receptors, which are people that live in houses and businesses and everywhere else. So we actually did look at that. So there's a bunch of environmental documents that happen. The first one is what we call an EIS, an environmental impact statement. And then when money becomes real, we do the next level of environmental assessment. It's called the record of decision. And that record of decision is when the noise analysis is done. And we've done that noise analysis. So basically, there's a whole guideline on the I-25 website that you can read. It's really boring. It'll put you to sleep. But there's a cost benefit analysis that happens when you take a look at what the sound wall would cost versus how many receptors would benefit from that. There's a threshold to that monetary value, and none of the receptor density was big enough for that to be a benefit to this project. So there won't be any sound walls on this project.
Yeah. Well,
We are very careful. We're designing around what we've heard is called the Great Wall of Mead, the berm that exists. That is an excellent sound barrier, and we don't want to touch that or minimize that effectiveness at all. So we are designing around that berm to try to protect that as much as possible.
okay. One last question. And you may have mentioned, I didn't catch it. For segment 5, where's your starting point? Is it starting on the north or the south end?
So good question. The starting point on the south end is where the, you can almost see it on I-25 where the concrete turns to asphalt. There's a break in what the condition of the roadway looks like. It's just north of Colorado 66 Bridge. And so it'll start there unless we're able to add in that extra scope in the northbound direction to get the express lane south of the 66 bridge so we can get people in the express lane before we drop the general purpose lane. So that will depend on money. So that's the southern limit. The northern limit will connect right in to the Berthoud area right around the Little Thompson bridges south of 56. So it'll be a seamless 26-mile of toll lanes.
Thank you.
Chris?
2 questions. First of all, you keep talking about we dropped the general purpose lane. Does that mean it's still going to go from 3 to 2 and then back to 3 again?
So right now, when you're going northbound, there's 3 general purpose lanes.
Right.
And once we add in the express lane, we'll maintain those 2 general purpose lanes. That is the condition the whole way up to Fort Collins or to really Wyoming.
Okay. With the express being the 3rd.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And now question on the 1601.
Sure.
The picture you showed only shows northbound egress and ingress to it. Is that true or is it also on the southbound side?
So I think the picture you saw, those are actually the frontage road bulb outs. So they're not the on and off ramps, but it would function very well as an on and off ramp. Because the grades match exactly and everything, but that's actually the frontage road that bulbs out to get the spacing needed from the bridge to where the frontage road connects with the 36 road
It's just hard to
or
see.
38 road.
Little screen.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
It trips everybody up because it just looks like it should be on and off ramps.
Thanks, Chris. And question? Trustee Adams, do you have any questions for Aber tonight?
Actually, I do have one.
Okay.
On the bridges, when you are basically making those bridges, what is the total lane capacity that would be able to be accommodated in those bridges for the future, since northern Colorado seems to be growing at such a fast rate?
So the bridge that we will build will accommodate only the cross section that I showed. So 2 lanes with the 34 will have the 5-foot bike lane and then the 8-foot sidewalk. We will be able to go back in the future to build an additional bridge. So we're setting up the entire interchange to where we can add in a second bridge once that becomes reality. But with the budget constraints that we have now, we just can't afford to build a second bridge that wouldn't be used.
Any other questions,
Okay.
Trustee Adams?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
If you build it, they will come.
They will.
Just like we did at Bucky's.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Thanks,
they-
Abe.
Thank you.
Yep. I have a small token of appreciation that I will bring it over to you.
Oh,
Thank you
well,
again and see you at the next meeting.
Yes, and thank you all to your staff as well. Your staff has been awesome. And on our I-25 coalition meetings, your mayor always has the best comments and really provides some good pick me up even when we're feeling down. So thank you all to your staff. Thanks.
All right, we'll move on to our second informational item for this evening. It's from our community engagement update and it'll be introduced by our speaker is our Public Information Officer, Community Engagement Director, Lorelei Nelson. And she's already there, right? There you are.
I am here. Thank you. So I'm going to give you a brief overview of our community engagement department, everything that's going on this year, and the changes that we've implemented. So I'm going to start off with youth sports. We're doing our regular soccer, volleyball, t-ball coach pitch. New this year is we are only doing one season of youth soccer in the spring. We are adding in NFL flag football in the fall. This has been something that Caitlin and I have been talking about the last couple of years. We have flag football teams practicing in Mead, a lot of them, and they play elsewhere. Carbon Valley also does not have flag football, so we decided to join forces and see if we can get a league together. So this will be NFL flag. It's sponsored by NFL. They provide the jerseys and the flag, so you'll see Broncos, Chiefs, all those teams out there competing. And then again, we'll have winter basketball, and that is pre-K through second grade in Mead, and third through eighth grade in Carbon Valley. With Carbon Valley hosted in Mead and Carbon Valley. This year for cornhole has been going, the last few years have been going really well. Our typical league is 4 weeks, and we've decided to extend it to 6 weeks with a tournament on the final night. New this year for our camps is we're going to host a spring break soccer camp. We're partnering with Real Soccer Colorado. They're bringing out the coaches. We're providing the space, and that'll be something new and fun that we haven't done in years past, is to host a program during spring break for those kiddos that are looking for something to do. We'll have our usual soccer, flag football, volleyball, and basketball camps. We'll have Crafty Critters, which is our arts and crafts program we've ran for the last few years and has been very popular. And then new this year is we're adding Miles of Smiles, and it is a pre-K fitness program. So specific for those kiddos that are like 2 to 5. Where they go to the various parks and learn how to exercise and run and walk and just be active. And then for Girls on the Run, we had a very successful fall session last year. And so we have decided to run with it and do spring and fall this year. For our older active adults, we have our lunch bunch, which is where a group of older active adults go out to a restaurant once a month. We have lunch and bingo at the Merc. That's held 4 times a year. New and folks are really excited. Coffee Club at Ziggy's. So we'll be adding that. That'll happen actually after the Anytime Fitness Monday and Wednesday. So those folks that are going to work out, they can swing by Ziggy's and meet some other folks and have coffee. For this year, our trips are to the casino, and then we are going to Jester's Dinner Theater trip. The casino will be open to everybody 21 and over. So if you're feeling lucky, sign up. And our community events, no big changes here, with the exception of cleanup days, but our extravaganza egg hunt, Easter is very early this year. So fingers crossed the weather is kind. That'll be on March 23rd. Cleanup days, as we spoke last year, will be 2 weeks, held in May and October, and that will be at the Front Range landfill. And we are planning on doing 2 mailers. We're going to do a general mailer of all the events and dates, and then we're going to do a specific mailer for cleanup, just telling people the change, why the change, the location, and then a direct line to contact us if they have questions about all of that. So that'll be in May and October. Fishing is fun. Our fishing clinic that will be held at Highland Lake again. That was it was rainy last year, but a surprisingly good turnout. So our staff has been working with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife to get fully trained, and so our staff will be hosting that with a Colorado Parks and Wildlife representative. Our townwide garage sale is on June 29th. Rockin' and Reelin' Friday night music and movies. We are booked for that. We have all of our bands scheduled. We have our movies scheduled, so we'll be launching that lineup shortly. Our usual bike parade on July 4th, National Night Out is August 6th. Community Day, September 14th, and then Christmas in the Park, December 7th. Our partner events, nothing has changed with this. Mead Motorhead's Car Show will be on May 27th. It'll be their 20th year, so that'll be a big, it's a big to-do for the community in 20 years of hosting this show. Excuse me, the Chamber Summer Block Party is scheduled for June 8th, and then we'll also partner with them for the Trick or Treat Street on October 26th. So as a general overview for our departments and things that are going on, as Helen mentioned, we have our community report, which is live and active on our website, so you can view it digitally. It will be in mailboxes to the residents this week. And the other part of that is our PD education campaign. So we want to touch base with the residents on their feelings and thoughts about the police department. In that report is a link and a short code to take the survey. We are planning on promoting that in the Mead Messenger social media on both the town and PD. We are also going to do a separate mailer specifically for that survey. And that'll go out probably a week before it ends on February 19th. We're going to continue our Built for Mead campaign. We will be promoting that across various different platforms. We're looking at a mass marketing campaign with iHeartMedia, going into streaming, getting into that realm for our Built for Mead and advertising, our community, our location, and the local businesses that are here. Another very large project that JC and I are working on currently is our ADA compliance. It's a House bill that was passed in 2022, I believe, and state government, local governments had several years to get on board. Right now, our website and Civic Rec is compliant because we have Audio Eye, which automatically adjusts for the folks that need help viewing. Our biggest issue with ADA compliance is our PDFs. And the first step on that is minimizing our website pages. So for a small community and a small website, we have upwards of about 5,000 pages, and 90% of them are old from 2016 that aren't relevant. So it is a step-by-step process for JC and I to go through that website and start removing those pages. So we're not remediating PDFs that we don't need to. And then we will have our meet, greet, and eat with the Board of Trustees. This year, we're looking at Founders Park East, which is around the Oval, parking opportunity. And we are looking at Margill Farms Park, where we had some renovations last year. And then the other one will be at Town Park. Again, focusing on those areas where the surrounding communities can come in and chat with you guys. The change for this year is that we're looking to do food trucks instead of serving food. We think that'll draw in more folks and kind of change it up a little bit. And then we're not trying to figure out food and getting there and, you know, all the health issues that come with servicing food. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Busy year. Questions, comments? Chris?
The survey, are you putting on a QR code so it can be done on a phone?
So the community report has a QR code, and we have QR codes on our paper, the mailer that'll go out. Okay. And then there's mixed opinions on QR codes on social media because most of the people are viewing social media on their phone. They don't view use a QR code, but it will be on our website. And Mary will have a flyer for Coffee with the Mayor should anybody want to QR code that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments? Trustee Adams, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lorelei.
Thank you.
Busy year. Hope the weather holds out. All right, next is our proclamation this evening. It's Winter Bike to Work Day, February 9th of 2024. Trustee Trance, will you read the proclamation? Thank you.
Whereas Winter Bike to Work Day is being celebrated on Friday, February 9th, 2024, organized by Way to Go, a program of the Denver Regional Council of Government. Whereas Bike to Work is an annual tradition for seasoned cyclists that encourages them to brave the elements, ride to work on their bikes. Bike to Work Day is a semi-annual event hosted in winter and summer. Whereas Bike to Work Day has had a steady rise in participants since 1995 and is a chance to showcase the many benefits of bicycling and encourage more people to give bicycling a try as an alternate form of transportation. And whereas riding a bike is a viable and environmentally sound form of transportation and an excellent form of recreation, and whereas creating bicycle-friendly communities has been shown to improve citizens' health, well-being, and quality of life, to boost community spirit, to improve traffic safety, and reduce pollution and congestion. Now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, Mayor of Town of Mead, does hereby proclaim Friday, February 9th, 2024, as a Colorado Winter Bike to Work Day and encourage all citizens of the town of Mead to recognize the importance of encouraging and supporting the use of bicycles within our community. Given under her hand and seal in the town on the 29th day of January, 2024.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the signing of this proclamation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Strands,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you for reading the proclamation. The board, next is our public comment of the evening. Our first one, the board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during the public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to address the board? Looking at 3. Is there anybody with us virtually that would like to speak to the board tonight?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, next is our consent agenda for the night. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strands, trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries for our consent agenda. Thank you, staff, for putting this together tonight. And I do want to mention in public that we've just approved update for our general guidelines for our public comment at open meetings and general guidelines for conduct at public hearings. So take a read of resolution number 9-R-24, and that will take effect next meeting, right? Okay. Thank you very much, Marcus. Making sure I'm correct and legally. All right, we have no further general business for this night, so this brings us to our second regular public comment period. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the board tonight? Okay, seeing none. We will get an update on our legislative session by our town attorney now.
Thank you. Some of the information that I'll review with you tonight was current as of the end of last week, which means that it may be outdated today. But I did provide, I think, an overview at the retreat on January 6th of some bills that were expected to be introduced during this session. The legislature did convene or start their 2024 legislative session on Wednesday, January 10th. So as of this coming Wednesday, the 31st, they will have been in session for 3 weeks. As I mentioned, on January 6th, the governor's office seems to be focused, or they're on 3 main areas, or there's at least a priority in 3 main areas of for this session, including strategic growth, accessory dwelling units, and financing for ADUs, and then the transit-oriented communities bill. So let me again maybe briefly review those items. So with respect to strategic growth, there is a bill that I don't believe has been introduced yet, but this is the bill that will be, it's referred to as Senator Roberts' bill. And the legislation is aiming to address or require local governments to do a housing needs assessment, have certain initiatives or I'll say funding made available to local governments if they're following those housing needs plans, and then also requiring a certain level of comprehensive plan reform or elements that have to be included in a jurisdiction's comprehensive plan if and when that document is amended. So what's interesting is that CML has a piece of legislation that is addressing a lot of those same areas. And it's my understanding that the state right now has been receptive to CML's overtures to try to get these 2 pieces of legislation to be kind of combined together and be made one. So the CML bill, it will be carried by Senators Kirkmeyer and Zenzinger, both of whom you may remember were very instrumental in helping have Senate Bill 213 from the 2023 session defeated. There's a chance that the CML bill was introduced on Friday of last week, but I'm not sure it actually has been yet. I know that, but it's fairly imminent. I think the last drafts have been circulating. Let me give you a quick highlight of the CML bill. This will require local governments to conduct local housing needs assessments. That housing need assessment will have to be completed by December 31 of 2026, and then every 5 years thereafter. So it'll have to be done or updated on a quinquennial review period. That housing needs assessment will have to be submitted to the Department of Local Affairs. And the bill will permit those studies to be done on a regional basis, meaning that if the town of Mead wanted to partner with neighboring jurisdictions or partner with Weld County, that would be permitted. And the bill will require each local government to review progress towards meeting the goals that are set forth in the housing needs assessment and create and implement an action plan. Similar to the piece of legislation that will be introduced by Senator Roberts, the CML bill does include technical assistance from DOLA and grant funds that can be applied for in order to assist local governments in implementing or adhering to this requirement. In terms of the master plan requirements, this bill will require that each master plan include a housing element as of December 31, 2026, and a water supply element. The housing elements that have to be included in the master plan include a reasonable plan to promote the equitable and efficient development of dwelling units, an analysis of opportunities to achieve the development of high density and affordable housing units within a reasonable distance of major transit stops, and a description of opportunities for intergovernmental cooperation to address local and regional housing needs. One interesting piece of this draft legislation is that the bill also disallows new homeowners associations or existing HOAs that do a substantive amendment to their covenants from prohibiting accessory dwelling units or middle housing where such uses are allowed by local zoning. So the state does not want to have private covenants on property that would disallow more denser housing, essentially. One of the other main bills that again has not been introduced yet is focused on accessory dwelling units, and it would require that ADUs be allowed as a use by right, where single unit detached dwellings are allowed for jurisdictions that are within the boundaries of a metropolitan planning association and have a population of over 1,000. CML is not supportive of this bill, given that right now the bill seemingly is trying to preempt local land use control. One of the other major pieces of legislation that has not been introduced yet is the Transit-Oriented Communities Bill, or the TOC bill. This is the bill that would establish a laundry list of requirements for transit-oriented communities. Right now, in the latest draft that's been circulating, a TOC is a city or town that is within the boundaries of an MPO, a Metropolitan Planning Association, has a population of 4,000 or more, has a median household income of $55,000 or more, and contains at least 50 acres of transit-oriented areas. In a draft that was circulating a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week, that had been shifted from 50 acres of transit-related area up to 75, and now the draft is back down to 50. So that's what I would expect will be included in the legislation when it is ultimately introduced. Right now, there are about 30 or 31 jurisdictions along the Front Range and in the state that would likely satisfy the TOC criteria. The town of Mead is not one of them. So I will continue to monitor this bill, but it's not something that, as currently drafted, would have any immediate impact on the town of Mead. Let me see. There is a here's a couple of other bills of interest. There's a lot out there, and Mayor's smiling because she knows the CML Policy Committee, I believe, met last week and reviewed a lot of these. There is a bill that has been introduced to prohibit residential occupancy limits. So the plain language of the bill states that a local government shall not limit the number of people who may live together in a single dwelling, regardless of familial relationship, except for regulations tied to a minimum required square footage per person that are necessary to protect health, safety, and welfare. My understanding is that is scheduled to be discussed in committee tomorrow on the 30th, and CML will be testifying in an opposed position. This is an interesting one. House Bill 241026 has been introduced by Rod Bockenfeld from Arapahoe County. And all of you, I think, are familiar with Tabor, right? The Taxpayer Bill of Rights that was approved by Colorado voters as a constitutional amendment back in 1992. A lot of cities and towns in Colorado have held what's referred to as a de-tabering election, and Mead included, which basically says, notwithstanding the limits that are imposed by Tabor, if the voters within the community approve it, the excess revenue can be retained. So that, and I forget the date of when that was voted on by Mead voters, but what this piece of legislation would do would be to require communities to take that de-tabering election back to voters, and then do so on at least an every 5-year basis thereafter. So this piece of legislation, and it's interesting, the language in the legislation says that because this has to do with tax equity and tax policy, that there has to be what they're calling generational kind of input on this. They don't, I think what's the thought behind this is they don't want voters at some point in the past to have made a decision on whether revenues exceeding the Tabor limit should be retained by a local government. But obviously CML is also against this piece of legislation because the voters have already made a decision in the community, and it's very expensive to run this election and to take it on an every 5-year basis. And then let me just conclude quickly with 2 pieces of legislation that have not been introduced but are expected. And we can celebrate and be happy about them right now because they're going to go away probably and not actually ultimately be made into law. But one of them is, I forget the county that's bringing this forward, but it would make changes to the Colorado Open Records Act that would extend the period of time that is available for the municipal clerk or the official custodian of record to respond from 7 to 10 days, and would also put in different procedures for somebody that is referred to in the draft bill as a vexatious requester. So there are a lot of communities that are dealing with, 1 or 2 or 3 individuals that are literally filing multiple core requests on a daily basis. So it's starting to take a lot of resources away. It's almost like having dedicated staff people that do nothing but respond to core requests. And I don't know, Mayor, if you have any input on that, or if that was discussed by the policy committee. And then lastly, there's a bill that will be introduced as well, where attorney's fees could be awarded on a Rule 106 action that is filed on a land use decision, allowing the town to recover its attorney's fees. So in some communities, the Rule 106 procedure is being utilized as a tool to delay the start of a project. So like neighbors or other third parties will file a Rule 106 action to tie that up in district court. So this piece of legislation is intended to provide a disincentive to that type of action by allowing a town or city to recover its attorney's fees. It's a good thought. I don't expect that will actually make it out of the session. But happy to stand for any questions. But again, we're very early in the session, so I will continue to try to keep you updated as I have more information.
Questions or comments for Marcus? Herman?
I'm sitting here looking at this newsletter.
What's the date on it?
January 12th.
Okay.
But it talks about a proposition 123, which deals with affordable housing. So at this stage, it's a very early stage, so that they're doing surveys and trying to get stakeholder input to that. It sounds like proposition 123 is trying to move forward, but I don't know what affordable housing is defined as.
Well, Proposition 123 was actually passed at last year's session, and then communities can opt in to 123. What's interesting is that I think the state has been surprised and I think a little bit blown away by the number of communities that have opted in to date and have already submitted requests for grant funding. So the funding that's available, my understanding is not enough to actually fund what needs to be done around the state. So there's going to have to be some winners and losers there. But I'm happy to, if you have more information on.
Just a curiosity that I was reading just
Mhm.
happened to fit in with some of the other things
Yeah.
we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one piece of the puzzle for sure. Yeah. And I will just mention too, that if any of you are interested in learning more or following this in a little bit more detail, there is a legislative workshop that CML is doing in Denver on February 15th. And those are usually a half day or maybe a full day event, but I'm sure staff has that information on the CML workshop as well. Happy to pass that along to any of you that may be interested. I think it's held at the History Colorado building, which is close to the Supreme Court.
And I'd like to add that you can sign up for the CML State House report. Yeah, State House report, and it comes once a week. Usually it's right before we get together at our board meeting. So it's like, hurry up and catch up and what happened that day. So if you want to sign up, there's a spot on cml.org to sign up for any of the newsletters or the State House report or anything like that. So questions or comments? Chris?
One. Can we follow along with Senate Bill 24-05? It has a lot to do with watering rights and turf and stuff. And it might, I know CML is opposed to it, but it might affect us if it does happen to pass.
Oh, this is the prohibit landscaping practices for water conservation. I think
Yeah.
this is the one would disallow the installation of turf in areas that are not intended to be used actively, like a sports field. So the town would be impacted by, if this becomes law, I think the town would be prohibited from putting turf in like right-of-way medians, for example, and other areas. And it would also impact, potentially site plans that are submitted for commercial development. I think the intent here is to probably have more, xeric type landscape materials and whatnot that are installed. But that's something that happy to follow during the session. That's Senate Bill 24-005.
Right, Deb, Trish. Trustee Adams, do you have any questions or comments for Marcus?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Marcus, very much for the update. All right, we'll move on to our elected official reports. Do any of the town trustees have any reports that they would like to discuss? Okay, all I have to do is come Saturday for the best coffee. And we always have a good time of coffee with the mayor. Also, thank you very much to the staff tonight for putting this together. They work very hard between meetings and during meetings, catching everything and seeing our vision. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I really do. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
thank you. Trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Shranz, trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. The January 29th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees now adjourned at 7:07. Thank you very much. Please drive safely home.